Hello, I'm Suzy Vance, creating from the heart and artistry of living, and my guest today is Kris Krouse, Executive Director of the Shirley Heinze Land Trust and longtime friend. So, how did you get here, Kris? You have had an amazing history. I mean, you went to college, and after college you bumped into somebody that you knew who connected you with Shirley? That's amazing.
Yeah.
The Shirley Heinze Land Trust, one of my favorite organizations.
Yeah, so I ended up over in northwestern Indiana, if you will, attending St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer, where I got an environmental science degree, and had bumped into someone while working at a package store in school who suggested I apply for a position in Crown Point doing environmental consulting, remediating gas stations and industrial sites, and doing environmental consulting.
So your interest way back then was in the environment.
Yep. I've always had strong interest in the environment. Going back to when I was younger, made a few trips to the dunes with friends. And then in high school, I had a couple of friends that were very interested in going out into the middle of nowhere and hiking and tromping around national parks. And that's what really kind of fascinated me and intrigued me to do something that was more environmental related.
And so she suggested you connect with Shirley Heinze Land Trust.
Yeah, so a subsequent connection was Tina Rogers, who was on the board of Shirley Heinze Land Trust and part of a leadership program at Indiana University Northwest in Gary, where I was wrapping up MBA. And she suggested I apply for the executive director's role, and I did. And
at the age of 25, you landed that?
Yeah, it was a lot of dumb luck.
It was an organization that was about, if you will, an age of 25 in its development, and you were perfect because you had your eyes on a lot more than that.
No, I think what was perfect is that, and where there was a lot of good alignment, is passion and interest for something that's meaningful and has impact on your community, where you live, and something that's bigger than any of us as individuals. And really, the other big piece to that was there were so many people that were knowledgeable and just had rich experiences to contribute to the organization, and in some ways contribute to me. So I was constantly learning and able to grow, and still growing and learning with kind of along the way and with the organization.
And I think it is amazing that it just was the perfect fit, because the organization was really ready to take new steps, I think. And you sort of insisted on it, which I think was wonderful. The Shirley Heinze Land Trust, maybe so people will know what it is really an urban land trust. It's a land trust that's in northwest Indiana, right on the border from Illinois, all the way over to the other end of St. Joe County, which South Bend is in. And we cover 6 counties, 3 of which, if I remember correctly, we got because nobody else in Indiana wanted them.
Yeah, there was a gap in terms of geographic coverage of land trust in the state. So we eventually, after many years of already being in operation, picked up St. Joseph, Stark, and Marshall County.
But our collaborations have been not only in northwest Indiana, but Illinois, northern part of Illinois, and we really, I think that's one of the major contributions that you have given the organization, which is you've always reached out to partnerships with other organizations, and really, it 2 is greater than 1, and 3 is greater than 2, and it goes on like that. It's really interesting. What's going to happen with Shirley now?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Lots
I know
of ideas.
that we're all thinking about acquiring even more property because the organization has really expanded over the years.
So yeah, there's been the expansion of our geography and just project areas going back to the 1980s, like here in Beverly Shores along the Great Marsh, and in Ivanhoe South, a spectacular dune and swale nature preserve in Gary. And I think what's exciting and where the organization, or about where the organization is going, is we are thinking much more broadly about how conservation can be impactful and have meaning for communities and the people that live within them. So a couple of our big initiatives include that rural part of our geography and having an agriculture strategy, having a water quality strategy, and how does the land we're protecting not only improve the quality of people's lives, but how does that, how do we take land conservation to, other places in our region? So for example, with agriculture, some may look at ag land and say, well, that doesn't have what we refer to, or historically have referred to as floristic quality index, how many native plants versus invasive plants are on the property. But when you start looking at ag land, there's a lot of natural attributes in terms of the soil health and buffers and the ditches and the streams that run through those properties. And so we are taking a much more holistic approach to land conservation. Ag is one example. Another, and this gets to the partnerships and community engagement, is within many of the municipalities here in northwestern Indiana, we have nature preserves. And so how are we activating those nature preserves to be resources for the residents, for the students, for the entities, whether it be a corporation or a university
How
or
do you bring all those people
school
into the fold?
Yeah, and do so in a way that is, not just allowing Shirley Heinze Land Trust to fulfill our mission, but it's allowing those organizations and even individuals to fulfill their mission or their needs. And so it's a very exciting time when it comes to connecting natural areas to communities and other natural areas, engaging more partners.
And to people who might not have thought it was relevant to their lives. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. No, and I think culturally too, or maybe historically, this region has, because of its industrial heritage, and there is a lot of fragmentation when you think of the many municipalities we have here, and just being kind of right next to Chicago, with that Illinois-Indiana boundary, and then the Michigan border. We have not always had kind of a spotlight on what all of those great attributes are, and conservation and what we're doing at Shirley Heinze with many partners is, I think, a story that we're doing a much better job of telling, and there's more and more interest. A perfect example is, we have an Indiana Dunes National Park here in the region, and I think even though we've always had a park, the name change and the publicity and how that's being communicated to the rest of the country and world is really allowing us to kind of demonstrate how great of a place this is to work and live.
Yep, it is, right here along Lake Michigan. Who would have thought? Well, if you had to give someone else advice about what to do if they saw something that they weren't sure they were interested, but they really deep down were passionate about, what would you say to them about should they do it, shouldn't they do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it comes down to relationships, and so having a network of people that you can rely on to get advice or maybe connect you to things that you're interested in is really where that starts. And so
That's how you found Tina.
yeah, that's how you find people like Suzy, who got me involved in Rotary back in 2007, and that really helped me expand not only my network but the network for Shirley Heinze Land Trust. And so always being open-minded and taking time to have conversations with people and letting them know what you're interested in, because sometimes they might not even have the same interest you do, but they very well could know someone or an organization that aligns with what you might want to do when you grow up, or even when you are grown up and you want to do something entirely different. That's how that happens.
These are pieces of advice you would give your children, right?
Yeah, but they don't listen. They're at that age, they don't listen.
Well, they're off.
Yeah. They won't listen for a long time.
They have their own networks.
Yep, exactly.
Well, thank you very much for taking time today. Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living with Kris Krouse. Thank you very much. See you again soon.